Hello, everybody. Welcome. We will give it just a second or two to have everybody kind of settle in. Hopefully you've got a good lunch in front of you that you can eat while you're learning. If you want to throw into the chat where you are joining us from in the Central Valley, we always love to see that. It's always fun. Hello, Stanislaus, Angela, nice to see you. Selma. Excellent. Thanks for being here. Hello, Turlock.
Lots of cities, so nice.
All right, let us go ahead and get started. So again, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Hiring Minors webinar. It's sponsored today by the Central Valley Regional Hotline, and my name is Tara Brennan. I am the events manager here at CEA, and before we start today's webinar, I just want to go over a couple of details with you. There were handouts that were sent out along with the link to this webinar that went out this morning. If for whatever reason you did not get those, go ahead and put your email address into the chat box. That's where I will be, and I can send those back out to you. And also, if you have any technical difficulties, throw that into the chat. I will also try to help you there. Your audio is muted, but if you do have questions, we love questions, we love participation. So go ahead and you can put those into the chat box as well. Mary will be able to kind of look at those and address them, and I can help out as well. There is going to be a quick 20-second survey at the end that'll pop up at the end. If you will please take that for us, we really appreciate it. We are here to help you and to serve you, and your feedback is really important to us. So now, with all of that said and done, I would like to go ahead and introduce our speaker, Miss Mary Bradford. She is one of our HR directors here at CEA. Mary, it's all yours.
Great, thank you so much, Tara, and welcome everyone. Really glad that you're able to join me for an hour today, where we're going to talk all about hiring minors. And really want to thank the Central Valley Hotline, who have put together, all these counties have put together a hotline for you that you are able to give us a call at CEA Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Anytime you have questions, we are more than happy to help you. And you'll notice on the slide I have up right now, each county has its own hotline number. So as we go through the slides that Tara had sent you and the ones that you'll see today, you're going to notice our main 800 number on the bottom of the slides. But what we'd like to ask you to do is please call the number that's associated with your specific county, so we can make sure we are answering the phone for where you are located. And the hotline, again, is no cost to you. This is a benefit that the county is providing. It's a wonderful benefit. And you can call and ask us questions on hiring and firing, or leaves of absences, or wage and rest periods, meal periods, all the things that you have to deal with every day. We are happy, very, very happy to help you with those. Now, you might be wondering, who is CEA? And I think we've got a couple of CEA members on the line with us today, but if you are not familiar with us, we are the California Employers Association. And we have been around for over 80 years, just trying to help businesses just like yours. We are headquartered in Sacramento, but we have HR advisors all over the state. We're very, very familiar working with the Central Valley and all of the businesses in that area. So keep in mind, when you call those 800 numbers that I showed you earlier, you're not going to be talking to somebody at the county. You're going to be talking to somebody from CEA. So we are a separate entity and not part of the county. Also, I want to remind everyone that we are not a law firm. So when you call in, we're not giving you legal advice. We are giving you best practice. We're giving you options. We're giving you all the background on the laws and what you as an employer are supposed to do. But of course, ultimately, all of the decisions are yours. But we are happy to talk over any questions you have, let you know about links, information. Speaking of which, I did put a link in the chat box that is a link to the state's form on hiring minors, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. But of course, I also want to remind you, in addition, that we're not a legal firm. It's not a bad idea to have an attorney that you can contact if you ever do have a matter of legal significance, because we are California, and sometimes it's just nice to have an attorney you can talk to. Let's talk about today's agenda. We're going to cover a lot in the next hour. We're going to talk about why you want to hire minors, how you can go about recruiting individuals. I want to give you a couple of best practices for applications, as well as interviewing some of the minors that might be coming to your workplace, and then really how you want to set an employee up for success when it comes to onboarding, because a lot of times you're going to be hiring someone who has never had a job before. So you want to make sure you're really setting everybody up for a very positive experience. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what you should expect when it comes to hiring minors, because it can be very different, of course, than when you're hiring a seasoned employee who has a lot of experience. So there are some other considerations you want to think about as you're bringing people on staff. So why in the world would you want to hire a minor? Well, there are a lot of positives. So I know we have a wide range of businesses on with us today. So there's a couple of reasons that you might want to hire a minor. Maybe you're just looking for some new perspectives when it comes to hiring the workforce, and you're trying to bring in some new workers to your workforce. There can also be some nice cost savings as well as tax benefits. Sometimes you might just need someone for seasonal employment. We're coming up on the holidays. A lot of people have long breaks. I know my kids have long breaks. I've got 3 kids in high school. And that could be a great time when you're ramping up for the seasonal rush that you might have to deal with, that you bring in somebody on a part-time temporary basis. So that's a good thing to consider as well. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about internship opportunities, because that could be something for your business to consider. So let's talk about those new perspectives when you are looking at hiring a minor. Well, the great news is those young people have a lot of energy, and they are often eager to learn, and they're excited about a new work opportunity. For a lot of times, it's going to be their first time earning money outside of maybe getting an allowance from their parents. So some kids are very motivated by that. I know my kids are. My oldest, who's a senior, just started working last year, and there is nothing he loves more than finding out when he gets a direct deposit every 2 weeks for his paycheck. So there's a lot of motivation there and a lot of energy when it comes to working in the workplace. Also, if you need to figure out how to download that new app or do something on your phone, one of those young minors probably will know how to do it. So they are really up to date on current technology. So they can give you a lot of insight into what other kids their age are looking for in a business, or what might incentivize another person to come into your business. So they can really offer some really good perspectives from that respect. And then again, social media savvy. If you've been thinking about updating your page, posting on Instagram, starting a TikTok account for your business, whatever it is, you have a very strong force that can help you out with that, and knows all the different tips and tricks and what are the most popular things to do too. And then we've got to take a look at cost savings. I know everyone is just under pressure right now. It is very difficult to keep running in the black for your business and keep things really productive. And then that's one of the benefits when you're bringing in new employees, is that they're very often entry-level positions. And so you are able to pay a little less. You are able to pay closer to minimum wage or minimum wage because they don't have a lot of experience. And when you have seasoned employees, you're paying for that experience. But with new employees, it's understandable that you bring them in at a lower wage. Now, also, a lot of kids that you might bring in may not need benefits, medical benefits, for example. If you offer those, they're probably on their parents' plan. So that could save you a little bit of cost there, and that they won't be getting onto your benefit plan. The other side of that is that a lot of them will be working part-time for you, and maybe they're not even going to be employed long enough to accrue some of the other paid time off benefits that you might offer your employees. So if you say, for example, in order to accrue vacation, you need to be here 6 months, or maybe you need to be here a year, and then you start accruing vacation, chances are that individual who's a minor who's coming to work for you may not be there that long if they're just a seasonal employee. Now, they would be entitled to any benefits that are required by law, paid sick leave, for example, but any extra benefits that you as an employer offer, vacation or holiday pay, may not necessarily need to be paid to a minor who's there on a temporary basis. So you might have a little bit of cost savings in that respect as well. And then there's good old taxes, right? So if you are a business owner and you are going to have your kids work for you, now this is in addition to not being attorneys, we're also not CPAs, but there are some tax advantages for you. If you're a sole proprietor, you may be able to get a tax break when it comes to FICA and unemployment taxes, depending on the child's age who's working for you. And also tax deductible when it comes to you as a business, as an entity, when you're paying your employees. So make sure, again, talk with your CPA if you're going to have your own kids, but you can have them on your payroll, you can pay them, and then there are some pretty great tax advantages to that. So make sure you consider that as well. Now, when it comes to seasonal workers, as I mentioned before, we're coming up to the holiday season, but also this really comes into play over summer. Although now a lot of schools, I know our own school and a lot of other universities are having longer spring breaks, or sometimes they're having 2 spring breaks, or they call it a ski week, and then they have a spring break. So those are opportunities for you to look at seasonal workers. Maybe you just need some temporary employees to work over a holiday week or to work over the winter break. I know my school for my kids is out for 3 weeks over winter break. So that's a large amount of time where you could bring somebody in, especially during the holidays. If you need a little extra holiday help, that could be a great time. They can start in November, then maybe they're working on the weekends or 1 or 2 nights after school. But then once they're out of school, there's a little more opportunity for them to work some more hours for you. So you want to take a look at that. Also, you can always rehire somebody. So if you hire somebody for the winter break and then you don't need them until summer, well, you can rehire them and you've already got an employee who's got the training and the knowledge, and then it's easier to ramp back up when you bring them on for another seasonal time. So you have a couple of options, and it's really a great opportunity for you to look at your business needs and really assess, what do we need our headcount to be over Christmas, or what do we need our headcount to be over spring break or over the summer holidays? And then you can decide, how many employees do we need to bring on? Do we want to bring them back? It's kind of a great screening process for that, that's for sure. Now, there are a lot of advantages for companies when you're taking a look at hiring minors. Now, first of all, it's a year-round recruiting tool, right? Because there's kids everywhere, and oftentimes they are looking for work. And again, maybe it's just going to be seasonal work, but maybe you need somebody just once or twice a week for 4 hours after school on an ongoing basis. And maybe that works out really well for both of you. So you can take a look at that, again, assessing what your needs are as a business. And then really what you're working on is training tomorrow's workforce. You are setting employees up for a successful career moving forward. So you can give them a really strong foundation, let them know what it is to work in a workplace. And we're going to talk a little bit about things to look out for too when you're bringing on workers, but you can really set a really strong foundation for employees as they start their careers and they start going into adulthood. Now, also, this can increase your chances of bringing employees back once they're not minors, once they're in college, or maybe they're going part-time to college and they want to work part-time, or maybe they're just looking to go straight into working and they're going to take a year or 2 off, or maybe not even go to college. So again, it's kind of another screening opportunity for you to bring in some individuals that might end up being long-term employees with your organization. And it increases visibility. This is a great recruiting tool because if you start to hire some minors and it's a great work experience for them, they start talking to their friends and say, hey, you should come over and work at my company. They're really flexible with hours. It's really fun to work there. I'm getting some great experience. And you kind of have a referral program already in place, which is really nice. And then, of course, you're giving back to the community. You are helping individuals who are new to the workforce start a really good foundation. It can be very positive for you as a business, and it can be a great marketing tool, and it can be great to promote on social media. So there are really a lot of great things to keep in mind as you are bringing on minors to work for you. Now, there are a couple of things I want you to consider too. Some of you might have interns working for you. Now, an internship, in order for it to be a true internship, needs to be an individual needs to receive credit from a school or some sort of vocational training program in order for it to truly be an internship. You don't want to just say, oh, you can come intern at my company and I won't pay you. And I know you're not through any school, but we'll just call it an internship. That doesn't work in California. So in order for someone to work for you, they need to either be your employee and they're on your payroll, or they're through an internship program through an accredited school or a training program, and they're receiving credit for working for you. Now, interns also can be trained in, or they must be trained to work in a specific industry, not in work that just benefits one company. So it can't just be one skill that only one company does. But I don't think that's probably a problem for most of you. So it can be working on the cash register. It could be working in the sales department, or maybe you're a real estate office and you're training an intern through some sort of program with that. So it should, again, be part of a general training program. Also, interns cannot displace regular employees. So you can't fire a regular employee and then hire an intern. That's not going to work. It's more of you have a position available and maybe an intern would be a good fit for that particular position. Now, also, a school or agency does have to supervise that training, that internship program. So then you would work with a counselor at a local high school that would be working to facilitate the relationship between you and the employee and the school, and that individual receiving credit for that. So that's always, I want to make sure that that's established. Again, you can't just come up with your own internship program. That's not part of a school. Also, interns are interns. They are not employees. So you have to make sure that that is differentiated. And so they're not receiving benefits. They're not on your workers' compensation. They're still under that school's umbrella. So make sure it doesn't really cross the line. And an intern is truly an intern. And also, internships are most usually unpaid because they're receiving some sort of school credit. So maybe it's an employee for fourth period if they go to 4 periods at a high school. Their fourth period is their internship program. They would come to your business. They would receive school credit, but they're not getting paid for it. So you want to just make sure you're looking at those two differences if you are doing an internship program. So you might be thinking, well, can't I pay my intern? Yes, you can, but if they are receiving credit, that is fine with the school. But then if you want to pay them, then they're also your employee. And then all the laws are going to apply as far as wage and hour laws. They're going to have to get a W-2 and they're going to be on your payroll. So you really just have to decide what's best for you and for your organization. Again, it might be something to talk with your CPA about, with your accountant about, just see what's best for you. Do you really want to just have an intern, or do you want to have an intern that's also receiving a salary or a wage with you? Let's talk a little bit about how you need to determine which positions that you want to fill. So again, you want to take a look at, is this seasonal? Is this going to be year round? How are we going to really structure this position that the minor is working for you? What days and hours do you need an individual? Now, as I mentioned, I put into the chat box the pamphlet that is the entire Hiring Minors in California pamphlet. Now, there are some real industry specific guidelines as far as how many hours an individual can work for you, what days they can work, or hours they can work preceding the school day. It really varies based on the industry. So keep that in mind too. But you do want to have a general idea of how many days per week you want an individual to work for you. And then again, what sort of specific skills are you going to need? Also, are there physical ability requirements for the position? Are they essential? Meaning, does the job have to have them? Does that individual have to have them in order to do the job? Can you make the case that someone without these physical abilities would not be able to do the job? So you want to really think about what are the minimum physical capabilities that someone would need. So for instance, you might normally require that a person in the position is able to lift 25 pounds. Is that really the case? Is it maybe they could lift 15 pounds? You want to take a look at what is appropriate for this job position. And we're going to talk about job descriptions in just a second. But when it comes to having physical requirements, you want to make sure that they're not really excluding candidates who could do the job. And you want to make sure they're an accurate reflection of what that job needs. Because you really do want to make sure, again, good faith and fair dealing when you're working with minors who are working for you, just as you are when you're working with your regular employees. You want to make sure you're being consistent and you're always re-reviewing your employment practices. So when it comes to job descriptions, we recommend you have this for every position. And this is a great thing to put on your to-do list for the end of the year to make sure you've reviewed all of your job descriptions. Or if you don't have job descriptions, that you work on creating them, because they really are helpful when you're hiring anybody. If you're hiring a minor, if you're bringing on an intern, if you're going for a more regular hire, job description is a great life cycle tool to have with your employees. But you want to make sure job descriptions are clearly written, that it's talking about the essential functions and duties. What is this person going to have to do in this job? And that's where you can list any required skills and experience. Maybe they need to have certain knowledge of certain software programs. If that's essential to that job, you want to make sure you list that. And then you can put in the preferred skills and experience. So you might say, prefer to have 1 year of experience in this industry. Well, that's a preferred, it's not a required. So if somebody's worked for the industry for a year, great, but if they haven't, you'll still consider them as an applicant. And then, of course, as I was mentioning, list those physical requirements. That's where you talk about how long does somebody have to sit or stand, or how much do they have to lift or push or pull, whatever it is. You want to be very clear, and again, make sure it matches the actual requirements of that position as you put together that job description. Now, for those of you that are CEA members, we do have our CEA University, where there is a job description builder tool in there. So that is a great resource to use. Highly recommend you check it out. It's a very, very user-friendly. All right, now how do we source our candidates? How do we find these people that we're looking for? So CEA can assist you with that. We've got a partner that does recruiting. Also, this is where you start to look at referral programs, right? And you say to your employees, hey, we're interested in bringing on 2 individuals, they can be minors that want to work here during the holiday season. And you let people know, here are the hours, here are the responsibilities. That's a great way to get internal referrals for sure. Of course, you can also post things online. You can use LinkedIn, you could use Job Jupiter, you could use Craigslist if you want to. Although you'll often get some random resumes with Craigslist, but you can still post out there. There's lots of options. And of course, contact your local schools and say, hey, here's what we're looking for. A lot of them have career centers. A lot of them have counselors that specialize in this. So you can talk to them, let them know what you're looking for. There's always job fairs that are going on. You can post jobs there, have a representative there to meet with people. And then, of course, networking, professional associations, if you're part of those, you can list when you're looking for individuals to come and work and say you're open to hiring minors. So there's a lot of options for how you can spread the word about the positions that you have. I want to spend a little bit of time talking about interview landmines and kind of reminding you, and this applies for minors as well as your regular employees, but you always want to avoid any questions that have anything to do with age, family status, any other protected classification. We can't ask about those things on an application or during an interview. You don't want to ask any questions about salary history, which we'll talk a little bit more in just a second. Also, you can't ask questions about criminal history until you've made a conditional offer of employment. So you can offer, or you can ask those questions post-offer pre-employment, but not in the job interview and certainly not on application. You really want to focus on questions that have to do with the job that you are trying to fill. And that's where you can talk about experience that they might have had at school. Maybe you are a broadcasting company and you can ask if they've done any media work at school. Have they been part of a production program at school? Those kind of things. We want to be very specific about what you're looking for that particular job. Also, avoid looking at individuals' social media accounts. And again, this applies for minors as well as adults that you're trying to hire as well. But you don't want to just hire someone based off of their social media account. That can be a real problem. All right, so let's kind of focus now talking about applications, ban the box, interviewing, and onboarding, all those important steps that you want to take. So always encourage everybody to use an application. A lot of minors may not even have a resume, or it's going to probably be a fairly light resume. But in general, we always recommend you want to have an individual fill out an application because it just captures a lot more information. You want to make sure it's California compliant. So if you are in multiple states, or maybe you have an application from another state, you want to make sure you are not using that. It has to be a California compliant application. A couple of things that cannot be on an application, kind of already mentioned a few, but you can't ask about criminal history information. So if you have a statement on your application that says, have you ever been convicted of a felony or misdemeanor, or have you ever been arrested? You cannot ask any of those things. So make sure you remove that from your application. Also, you can't ask salary history questions. You can ask a salary range expectation. That's perfectly fine. You could ask them how much they would like to make per hour. But you don't want to ask any history like, oh, I see that you worked at Baskin Robbins. How much were you making there? You don't want to ask any questions like that. Also, when it comes to pre-employment screening, if you do any of those, that is at your cost as an employer. So you can't require someone else, another applicant, to pay for those. So any screening that you do, that is at your cost. Now, when it comes to ban the box, this is a law for all of California. A couple of cities have even stronger laws, but San Francisco kind of started this originally. But if you have 5 or more employees, you can't ask about criminal convictions on job applications. And again, you can't ask until post-offer pre-employment. So that means you can't just casually bring it up in the interview or anything like that and kind of hope they say something. Shouldn't even come up in the interview process. Now, after you make an offer, if you do a background check or if something is disclosed, there are circumstances where you can deny employment based on the conviction if it has a direct link to the job that you're hiring for. So if you're hiring for a driver position, for example, and 3 months ago, somebody just got 3 tickets, then that could be a reason to not hire that individual for a driving position. But you do have to make sure it's directly linked to the position that you are hiring for. And of course, there are some additional ordinances in some cities, San Francisco, Los Angeles specifically. So make sure you check on those for any different cities that you might be hiring in. When it comes to interviewing, we do have a couple of do's and don'ts. So do make sure that questions are job specific. You asked about experience. You want to ask about knowledge. You want to ask some of those open-ended behavioral questions and try to get them talking about themselves, how they handle stress, how they deal with situations. How have you managed when you've been under pressure at school? What are ways that you find to cope with that so that you can get projects turned in on time, or those kind of questions? You can ask that. But you don't want to ask any questions about, race or pregnancy, or if they have a disability, have they ever filed a workers' comp claim, anything like that. We never want to ask any questions like that of our applicants, minors or adult applicants. Avoid any of those 18 protected categories we have in California. Now, when it comes to hiring a minor, we've got 3 steps that you need to follow. So after you interview and you find a great candidate, then we're going to make them a job offer. And then you're going to need to get a work permit. An individual has to have a work permit before they start with you. And then we're going to go through that onboarding process. So let's take these one at a time. So here's the link that I put into the chat box. And this is the child labor law pamphlet. It's a big one, has a lot of pages on it. But it tells you pretty much everything you need to know about hiring a minor. And really what it boils down to is once you're ready to extend an offer to that individual, then they're going to need to pick up an application. They can get it from their school. Also, they can get it from their district office. Even if school is shut down for summertime or if it's winter break, the district office will be open. So they're always going to be able to get that application. So then the minor fills it out, the parent fills it out, and the employer completes different sections of the application. That form is then returned to the school, or again, the superintendent office or the district office. And then once it's approved, the school will issue that work permit. And then that permit is brought to the employer and the employer keeps that on file. So those are all the steps you're going to want to follow. Now, what's nice about the work permit has, we had a question come in. This is a great time to ask this question. What if the minor has graduated high school already? If they have already graduated from high school, then they won't need a permit, but you still have to follow child labor laws. So something to keep in mind. So for that work permit, the permit is going to tell you the total number of hours that can be worked in the days or the week, or excuse me, each day or each week. And it's going to note how many hours or shifts the employee may work. It's again dependent on, is it before a school day? Is it a weekend? Those kind of things. They take a look at that. Now, the school may impose other limitations or on that particular employee, and the permit expires 5 days after the start of the next school year. So you have to make sure you do renew that every time or at the end of every school year. So you've got a current work permit on file. Now, when it comes to onboarding your new hire, remember, a new hire is a new hire in California. So that means everybody needs to receive all of the paperwork that's required. Now, on our website, you may not have had a chance to visit our website, but that's the bottom of every slide here. That is employers.org. You can click on forms in the search box. You can put the word hire, and that will bring up a new hire checklist for you. It's completely free for everybody to access that. It has links to all the forms that you need, but you do want to make sure you're providing this new hire, who is a minor, all of the forms that you would hire or provide to everybody else. So make sure you're always doing that. You also want to review all of your policies, all of your acknowledgements. So if you've got your IIPP, your Injury Illness Prevention Program, you're going to have them review and sign off on that. You're going to review the employee handbook with them. You're going to review your COVID prevention plan. Everything is just going to be business as usual because they are your employee. So you want to make sure they're covering all of that paperwork. Also, if you offer direct deposit, they can do that as well. You're going to make sure you take care of any trainings that you need. One of the trainings we have, of course, is harassment prevention. If you have 5 or more employees, we always recommend you make that part of your onboarding process. Now, if this is really a short-term hire, they may not necessarily need it, but I say, why not? It's only an hour. So again, it just shows the employee that you're committed to them as an employer and you want to make sure they go through all the training, they have all the information, just like any other regular employee. Now, if your employee's hourly rate exceeds minimum wage, so if you, for example, are going to pay your employee $20 an hour, during this training time, you can pay a training wage. So while they're going through new hire orientation, while they're doing training, while they're watching any safety videos you have, you can pay them less than their regular wage, but it always has to be minimum wage. So in California right now, if you have 25 or fewer employees, it is $14 an hour. If you have 26 or more employees, it is $15 an hour for minimum wage. As of January 1st, 2023, that is going up to $15.50 an hour. So everybody is going to be at the same minimum wage, $15.50. And again, if you do pay different wages for training time, you want to make sure that is noted in your policy, in your handbook. All right, we have our first poll. Tara, thank you for your help with that. I'm going to launch our first poll. All right, so is it okay to send new hires their paperwork to complete their first day of work so they can start working right away on the first day? If so, do you need to pay them? So a poll should have popped up. Just go ahead and select whatever answer you think is correct. So do you need to pay individuals if you send them paperwork before, or can you skip paying them since they're just filling out some paperwork? Let's see. All right, we've got some answers coming in. All right, we've got a mix as we always do. All right, so let me end that poll. I think we've got a lot of answers there. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating. And let me show you the results. So about 30% said nope, you're not allowed to send them anything. 30% said yes, you can send them, but no payment is required. 10% said yes, you can, and you pay them for 2 hours. And then 30% said yes, and you have to pay them for all time completing. Excellent, everybody. Thank you for participating in that. And here's your correct answer. So anytime an individual is under an employer's control, you need to pay them. So even if you send them paperwork before, which you can do, but you would need to pay them for that time. So I would actually recommend just wait until their first day, because if you send them paperwork and you say, make sure you complete this on Tuesday before you start working for us on Wednesday, technically they're working for you on Tuesday and they become your employee. So best practice is just wait until they come on site. That's their first official day. You have them fill out all the paperwork, go through everything with them at this time. Then we had a question, how long can you pay someone for training time? Like months, weeks, days? No, you want to be really careful with that. You want to make sure training time is very specific as to how long an individual is under training time. It's really a specific issue like this, like it's new hire orientation, or it's attending a harassment prevention training. The rest of the time, they should be receiving whatever their regular wage is. All right, here's a pop quiz for you. You can just answer in your head. True or false? The onboarding process occurs on the new employee's first day. When you get all the requirements signed, then you're done. I think you know what I'm going to say, false, right? Onboarding process is ongoing. So their first day is normally their orientation, and that's when you're covering all that paperwork. But when you're bringing on a new employee, it's really 30, 60, 90 days you've got an onboarding process, because you want to make sure you don't just throw everything at them and then you never talk to them again about anything. So it's that continual coaching. We want to make sure we're always talking with our employees. We're always checking in with them, make sure they're doing okay, make sure they have the tools that they need to be successful. It's really not different with a minor than it is with a regular employee. Now, you might have a minor who's working just a seasonal time. So this obviously may not be 30 or 60, 90 days, but you do want to keep checking in with them and say, hey, is everything okay? Do you have everything that you need? Do you have any questions, things you don't understand? Make sure they're always assigned a buddy or a manager that they can always go to. And I know depending on the size of your organization, people might have a lot of resources, maybe not as many resources, but it's always good to let an individual know, hey, when you have questions, this is who you always should go and talk to. Now, how are we going to help our employees be successful? You do want to communicate with them before the first day. You can say, hey, we're really looking forward to having you join the organization. Just to confirm, your first date is October 21st at 4 p.m., where you'll be working from 4 to 9 p.m., whatever it is when you're communicating with them. You want to let them know what they should expect. Check in with them, make sure they know who they're talking to, when they come into work for the first day, who they should ask for. Just make sure you've got all that information out to them. And then, of course, we always introduce them to their teammates, to their managers. Are they part of a group? Are they only in an office of 7? Just make sure they know who they need to know. And then again, you want to assign a mentor. And this can be their supervisor. This could maybe be another coworker who's been there for a year or two. Maybe they're another minor, or now they're a college student who's worked for them before, just to kind of show them the ropes and just tell them how things work. Like, here's the break room, here are the restrooms, here's how you do your time card. All of those things that you want your employees to know. Always establish clear expectations, because you want your employees to know what they need to do to be successful, because you certainly don't want to have to fire them or let them go or anything like that. You want to make sure you're setting them up for success. And it just continues on and on past that first day. All right, another pop quiz for you. You can require a minor to present a California driver's license and a Social Security card in order to complete their I-9 form. What do we think? True or false? Let's see, that is false. So you as an employer cannot dictate what forms an individual presents to you. When it comes to that I-9, we're going to talk about that here in just a second. There is list A, as you probably all know, and then there's list B and list C. So individuals need to produce one document from list A or one document from list B, document from list C. So driver's license is list B, social security card is list C, but you can't say that. You can't say they're required to provide those to you. You just say, here's the list of documents you can bring in. Please bring them with you on the first day. Now, a couple of differences when it comes to I-9s, though, because again, not a lot of minors might have a passport or might have all of those documents that they might need. So a school ID card can be used, and I apologize, I believe there is a typo in your handouts. A school ID card is actually from list B. I believe your handouts say list A, so please correct that on your handouts for me. So a school ID card is sufficient for list B. And if a minor can't provide documentation from list A or list B, a parent or legal guardian can establish their identity. And it looks something like this. So the parent or guardian would fill out under the signature line, individual under age 18, and then they are going to fill out that preparer section, which is the bottom of page 1. That's where they're going to put their name, their contact information. They're going to basically attest, saying, yes, I am verifying this individual's identity. And then on section 2, and I'm sorry, let me go back to section 1. Remember, section 1 needs to be completed on the individual's first day of employment. So that section does need to be completed. Section 2, which is what you complete as the employer, has to be completed by the third business day from the time that that employee has been working for you. So this is where you would fill out, for example, individual under age 18 for list B, and then maybe they did have their social security card. So then you would fill out that information. But make sure you don't say, oh, I'm not going to worry about an I-9, they're a minor. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure every individual does have an I-9 completed. Now, when it comes to onboarding, I mentioned this before, we always recommend that you provide as much training as you can to your employees, one of which might need to be harassment prevention training if this individual is working for you for more than 100 hours. So the rule is if it's a non-manager, they only need to have an hour of training. That has to be completed within 30 days or within 100 hours that that individual has worked for you. And also, this is one of those opportunities where, again, you might want to communicate before with the minor before they start to work for you to say, we're also conducting harassment prevention training on your first day during new hire orientation. If you would like to bring a parent or guardian with you, you may do that. So you want to make sure that you do give them that opportunity. All right, so let's talk a little bit about management requirements, because you as managers do have a couple of things you have to look out for. Now, last year, January 1st of 21, there was a new bill, a new law that went into effect saying that now mandated reporters, and that's an individual who works for a company with 5 or more employees, is a mandated reporter, and they've expanded what that means. They call them human resource employees, which doesn't necessarily mean you're in HR, and supervisors of minors. So when they say you're a human resource employee, I'll show you what that definition is just a second, but that means you need to report any form of abuse that you become aware of. So if you have a minor working for you and you think they are being abused in some way, you are required to report that. Now, when it comes to supervisors of minors, you're only required to report sexual abuse. But what I would encourage you to do, again, this is just like we're always looking out for all of our employees. If we feel that something is wrong, let's see how we can support our employees and help them out. Now, when it comes to this mandated reporters definition, so human resource employees, again, isn't just necessarily someone from the HR department. If you are somebody who accepts complaints, so an employee is allowed to come and say to you, hey, I want to complain about this other person. This person is harassing me, this person is discriminating against me, whatever it is, then you're considered a human resource employee. And therefore you become this mandated reporter. And again, if you're supervising, if you're an adult who is supervising a minor and you have direct contact with them, then you need to get this training. And what this training is, it's an hour-long training. We have it through CEA. If you do the state's training, it's about 3 hours long. We like ours just a little bit more, get it done a little more efficiently, but we recommend you make this part of training for all of your managers. So if you have managers that are going for the 2-hour harassment prevention training, they also will have another hour of mandated reporter training. Now, they haven't specified how often this has to be done with harassment prevention. It has to be done every 2 years. But I would recommend you can just keep it on the same cycle. If you want to have your mandated reporters do it every year, that's perfectly fine. But again, just like any sort of harassment prevention, you want to make sure you're maintaining records and files of the individuals who have attended it. Keep it in a training file, keep it in their personnel file, however you keep those records, but do keep a copy of any training that you provide to your individuals so that you can show that you're doing your due diligence and providing the training that's needed. All right, let's talk a little bit about what to expect when hiring minors. A couple of things you do have to consider. They have not been in the workforce, probably. So you are going to have to take a look and manage lack of experience, some maturity issues, and also those hour restrictions that we were talking about. So remember, this could be their first job for a lot of people. Maybe they've done some babysitting, maybe they have done some yard work for a neighbor, something like that. But this is probably their first job in a business. So we've got to keep that in mind. So they might need a little extra training. They might need a little extra supervision. They might need a little extra coaching. And that's okay. And again, remember, keep in mind, you're setting that foundation for a really good relationship with these employees and setting them up for really a successful work life. And that's what we want to look at. Now, when it comes to when you're thinking, gosh, how do I know that this is a good person? You can get references from teachers, counselors. You can ask as part of the interview, tell me about some of the things that you do at school. What are your favorite topics at school? Do you play any sports? Those kind of things are perfectly fine. Coaches can provide letters of reference, that kind of thing. Those are the things when you're trying to determine, what kind of individual is this? You can work on that and you can get some information from some of their references. Again, teachers, counselors are normally very proactive in giving letters of reference for individuals. Now, when it comes to maturity, it is a transitional period for a lot of kids, and they're going through high school, and we all remember high school, and individuals are really starting to form their identities. So they can be susceptible to being influenced by others. And so we want to hope it's a positive influence, right? And that's going to be your role to make sure it's a very positive influence. But keep in mind, there are plenty of negative influences out there. So if you start to see things getting a little off course, You want to make sure you coach and course correct as quickly as possible. Also, make sure when you're setting your employees up who are new, then you're establishing a mentor for them. Make sure it's a very positive mentor, somebody who has really good work habits, somebody who has really good attendance, because those are the things that are going to, again, really help set that person up for success. And then we have to take a look at some of the restrictions on hours. Now, this really varies by age group. There are different rules if you're 16, 17 versus 14, 15 versus younger than 14, as well as different industries. So that's why you'll have to look specifically at your industry and what individuals can work for you. There are daily and weekly work maximums when school is in session, and then different ones when school is not in session. Also, there are restrictions as what time of day minors can work. They're not able to work past certain hours on certain days of the week. And school districts can also put in different guidelines if they want to. So that's why it can really vary. But again, that's why you always want to make sure you've got that work permit, it's on file, it's current, it's up to date, so you can make sure that you are following along with those requirements. When it comes to certain industries, there are just kind of general hazardous things that you can't do. So obviously we don't have minors work with any sort of explosives, ammunition, being a motor vehicle driver or outside helper. There are some guidelines with that. Metal forming, punching, shearing machines, any of those very dangerous machines, power-driven bakery machines, those really large mixers, Hobart machines are often is one of the brands. They can't work in those kind of industries because it's just simply too dangerous. Too many accidents come about from that. And of course, keep in mind, you also want to make sure that you're talking with your insurance carrier to make sure about any other restrictions that they might want to place on the business if you are hiring a minor. And of course, those restrictions increase the younger the employee is. Take note of federal and state restrictions. Of course, whatever is the most restrictive, whatever is the most protective, that's what you want to make sure that you are following along with. Also, there's all sorts of restrictions on sale of alcohol, lottery tickets, gas stations. I know the other one is forklifts you have to be really careful about. So again, you want to make sure your specific industry, find out what any safety requirements are, check in with your own insurance, just so you can make sure you're following along and compliant with all of those. All right, couple of member resources I want to remind everybody about. We've got the HR advisor team here at CEA. We're always happy to help you Monday through Friday. The county has lots, or the counties that you're in, have lots of trainings that they offer, just like this one. We also have additional trainings if you're interested in some other topics. We do have forms, toolkits, alerts, other online resources. Now, there is a CEA membership that is outside of the hotline membership. So if you just need to call us with some questions Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, great. If you find you need a little more assistance, you need some more forms, you need some of the toolkits, then that's going to be a CEA membership. So give us a call and we can let you know what those different options are. And again, we can also help you with recruiting if you need some help with that. So I want to bring up the hotline numbers again, so you have those. And then I'm taking a look. I've had a couple of questions come in. So while you are writing down your hotline number, let me double check on this. Okay, there was a specific question that came in about Stanislaus County on the job training program. I would defer to your county rep and I would ask them as far as when it's compensable time, when an employee is going to see them to fill out any paperwork, just to make sure it's following along with their guidelines, just to be on the safe side. All right, so I do want to give everyone the codes for today for joining us for our training. If you are an HR professional and you're maintaining your certification, the HRCI code is 606051. And if you have a certification with SHRM, it's 22-XAZXG My goodness, that's a new one. So 22-XAZXG for HRCI and 606051 for HRCI, if you have that. And Tara just dropped those into the chat box as well. Thank you, Tara. And the last thing we were going to ask you to do is we'd love to get your feedback. You can use this QR code, snap it with your fancy phone. That'll bring up a really quick survey for you to complete, and we'd love to get your feedback on that. And I think that's all I have for you. We are caught up on questions. So if we don't have anything else, I'll turn it back over to you, Tara.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Mary, so much. And thanks everybody for participating. We love having that as well. So yeah, I did go ahead and put the codes into chat, so you can just grab those if you'd like. This webinar has been recorded and it will be available on the website for Central Valley. So you can check that out there. And do, like Mary said, if you haven't already snapped the picture of this code, go ahead and do that. And then Mary, you want to go back just real quick to the hotline slide, just in case people, because there's so many of them.
There are a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. So please be sure to utilize your hotline. We do love helping you, and use whatever hotline pertains to you. And again, there's a lot of them on this screen. So with all of that said and done, thank you, everybody. We really appreciate the time that you give us and the information that we can give to you. We hope that it is helpful. So go and make it a great day. Stay healthy, and we'll see you the next time. Bye-bye, everybody.